Good afternoon, colleagues, and everybody in attendance of this memorial service. It is indeed a great pleasure that you made time from your tight schedules to attend this memorial service. My name is Segametsi Molawa, and I will be the program director for this service. I would like to thank LIASA for making it possible that we have this memorial service, because the library and information services sector has indeed lost a giant in the name of Professor Seth Manaka. I would like to welcome the family of Professor Manaka. Let me welcome everybody who is in attendance, all the former colleagues, all the former students of Professor Manaka. We are having a lot of tributes lined up where people will take us through on how Professor Manaka touched their lives. I will also let people know how Professor Manaka touched my own life. In moments like this, when we have lost a legend, when we have lost a person who has made such a huge difference in our lives, I usually go to Psalm 46 that says, God is present in moments like this. He's the one who gives us strength. And when that's verse 1. And when you go to verse 10, it says, be still and know that I'm God. Because when we have lost the one we love, even if we are celebrating, but we are mourning the loss, we are in pain of this loss of the one we loved. Without any waste of time, I am going to call Mr. Molepo to open for us in a word of prayer.
Good afternoon. Before we pray, I ask that let us read from the book of 2 Kings chapter 2. We read verse 8 and the following verses. Elijah took his cloth and rolled it up and struck the water with it. The water was divided to the right and to the left, and the two of them went cross over on a dry land. When they had crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, tell me, what can I do for you before I'm taken from you? Let me inherit a double portion of your spirit. Elisha replied. You have asked a difficult thing, Elijah said. Yet if you see me when I'm taken from you, it will be yours. Otherwise, not. As they were walking along and talking together, suddenly a chariot of fire and horses of fire appeared and separated the two of them, and Elijah went up to heaven in a whirlwind. Elisha saw this and cried, my father, the chariots and the horsemen of Israel. And Elisha saw him no more. Then he took hold of his clothes and tore them apart. He picked up the cloak that had fallen off from Elijah and went back and stood on the bank of Jordan. Then he took the cloth that had fallen from him and struck the water with it. Where now is the Lord, the God of Elijah? He asked. When he struck the water, it divided to the right and to the left. In this scripture reading, we find a story about the two prophets of the Lord, one being a mentee and the other being a mentor. That's where we came up. We hear the story of Elisha and Elijah. When Elisha was about to leave, because we know there'll come a time in our life where we can say there come a time where we always look at we look at what can be done, what's going to happen when this man leaves. Elisha knew that Elijah was going because he kept on following him. He kept on following his mentor to make sure that he doesn't lose him. But what we in this where we found in verse 9, when he requested, he said, "What can I do for you, my son?" He said, "I want the double of your spirit." Today, as we cry for our beloved Prophet Manaka, it's one of those, most of us can look back. Most of us can look back and say, he didn't only leave us, but he left the clock for us. He left the double. If you look at how his students have become world leaders, they've become national leaders, they've occupied highest position, they're becoming professors in academic arena. That shows that he did not leave us only, but he left us with a legacy. He left us with a double. So Prof Manaka, as he lives, he's not dead, but he lives in us. He lives in John Tsebe. He lives in Professor Nkondo. He lives in Professor Mwepe. The list is endless. He lives in us. So the family of Prof be not take pride that Prof did not only leave us, but he left the clock that we as a profession, we need to take. And also, like Elisha did, strike the water of Jordan, let it open so that we are able to progress as a profession. Let us pray. Our Lord and Father, Jesus Christ, would like to invite you as we bid farewell to our beloved Prof. Be with the family, be with the colleagues, be with his student, be with all the people that were touched by his life. Oh Lord, it is our life well lived. We say thank you. Thank you for making sure that he lived among us. Thank you for making sure that he shared his value with us. In Jesus' name, we thank you, Father, for the life well lived. I pray, amen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Molepo. That is our LIASA President-elect. The words of comfort that you have shared with us, the legacy of Professor Manaka that he lives on. It is our pride that we should shine and continue all those he has touched through his life and all the other values he has shared with us. Thank you so much. The first tribute here will be by the former student and colleague of Professor Manaka, and that is Mr. John Tsebe. Over to you, Mr. John Tsebe. I think we are having some technical glitches here on the side of Mr. Tsebe. As he is receiving assistance, we will continue with the program. But in the meantime, let me take this opportunity to welcome those that join us a few minutes after we opened at 13 hours. I did indicate my name is Segametsi Molawa. And as we continue with the program, I will continue welcoming you because I'm seeing all of you as you join us. You are welcome to write your messages of condolences on the chat because the family is going to receive all this. Thank you so much. The next tribute is, let me go straight to the recorded tribute by the former colleague, Professor Peter Law, Development of Library Infrastructure and Policy Documents in South Africa. Thank you so much.
Dear colleagues, thank you for this opportunity to contribute my tribute to Professor Seth Manaka, an outstanding leader of our profession, a mentor and a dear friend. It was my privilege to have known Seth and to have worked with him in various capacities. I'd met him before, but I got to know him better in 1980 when I moved to Mabaso in what was then Botswana to start the library of the new university, which is now part of Northwest University. An advisory board of 3 senior library directors and 1 resource center expert was appointed to advise me. Seth Manaka was one of them. The other 2 librarians were Professor Ruben Muxe and Professor H.O.K. Zastrow. Together we made up a truly disparate and multicultural set of individuals, and we all got on marvelously. It was the beginning of a warm, collegial relationship. From time to time, Seth was also a house guest of ours in the new and quite bare university housing precinct, when he would enjoy communicating with our young sons. In 1990, Seth was elected as president of SALIS. He was the first Black African to hold that office. I served on his executive committee and got to admire and appreciate his leadership style. He was respected by all, including those who seemed to me a club of conservative old Afrikaners. In the evenings during the SALIS conference, he was often to be found sharing a bottle of wine or 2 and lots of jokes and stories with 4 or 5 of members of that brotherhood. I didn't fit in there myself, but Seth moved with ease between 2 worlds. That was a valuable gift. It enabled him to bring together 2 distrustful professional organizations, LIASA, of which he had also served as president, and SALIS. He was a bridge builder who inspired respect in all sectors of what was then a quite divided profession. Always calm, unruffled, and thoughtful, he was able to listen, and listening is a gift which, sadly, is not widely shared in our time. In 1992, I got to work with him more closely when I became the director of the State Library. He served as a member and later chair of the State Library's board, and in that capacity played a major role in the creation of the National Library of South Africa. It was during the 1990s that the movement to unify our profession gained momentum. As a mentor to the younger colleagues who led the process of unification, he quietly played a major role in the creation of LIASA. Mostly behind the scenes, he also repaired the bridges between South African librarianship and IFLA. And in so doing, he helped to ensure the recognition of LIASA as a professional association member of IFLA. Wise and patient, Seth was a leader in the very best sense of the word. He gave of himself generously. He left the very best kind of legacy, a cohort of motivated and empowered colleagues, many of whom followed in his footsteps as leaders in their turn. I salute his memory. May he rest in peace. May his loved ones be comforted that Seth lived a good and full life in service to our profession and our country. Thank you.
Thank you to Professor Law's tribute. You know, when you hear about Professor Manaka, we all share the same sentiments, that he was such a humble person. He was so kind, yet a tough disciplinarian. The role he has played in our sector, the library and information services, he really gave us all. Let's continue. I will go back to the University of Limpopo. I hope the technical glitches that were there have been sorted. Let me go back to Mr. John Tsebe. Mr. John Tsebe is the former student and colleague of our Professor Seth Manaka. I will hear you when you are ready, Mr. Not Mr. I've made a huge mistake. Dr. John Tsebe. Over to you. I don't think we have won as yet. I will be looking to see the message that says ready, I can go there. But now from the University of Limpopo's Library and Information Studies, the Alumni Chairperson, Mr. Modiba, if he is able to join us now, I will hand over to him. Over to you, Mr. Modiba.
Program Director, members of the family of Prof Manaka, members of the library and information sector, Kilidumedisha Kiripula, Mohoshi Rokwile Rapalal. My name is Refiloe Mabaso. I represent the University of Limpopo Library and Information Studies alumni. I serve the alumni committee as a chairperson, and I think in my lifetime, I had the privilege and honor to meet this legendary professional in 2015 when he was honored at the University of Limpopo. Our relationship with Prof Manaka is of special nature in the program of information studies at the University of Limpopo. Prof Manaka established the program of information studies from scratch in 1976 with only 3 students. And today we are proud to report that the program has grown tremendously in size. This giant that is resting peacefully produced 3 of the national librarians of the Republic of South Africa and other administrators and executives. For example, Dr. John Tsebe, the late Prof Ralivi Bisimelani, Mr. KP Mugumo, are few of the students that were produced by this legendary professional. On behalf of the University of Limpopo Library and Information Sector alumni, we are proud of the positive contribution this legendary information professional has made and achieved in his lifetime. Prof Manaka left a good legacy for the University of Limpopo by establishing this program. We encourage strongly the leadership of the program of information studies at the University of Limpopo to ensure that this mammoth legacy is sustained. The program should ensure that this milestone and legacy is protected jealously. In summary, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we join the family, the profession in celebrating a life fruitfully lived. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Modiba. I think all the people who crossed lines with Professor Manaka should be very grateful because he was in the business of new beginnings. Where he touched, it was the first. So we are so proud to have crossed lines with a man of his caliber. I have seen Mr. Tsebe is here now. Let me not continue making the same mistake. Dr. John Tsebe, I will hand over to you. Dr. Tsebe is the former student and a colleague of Professor Seth Manaka. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Program Director, and thanks to colleagues attending the memorial service. I apologize for the hiccups in terms of technology. Connected.
Yeah.
Am I connected now?
Yes, you are connected. You are connected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have known Professor Manaka for many years. Firstly, as his first student of LIS at the University of Limpopo, and secondly, as his colleagues, and thirdly, as his also colleague in the in terms of him being my boss and working under him, and also later on, as he was head of the Department of Library Information Science, I was head of the library. And after his retirement, of course, I did work with him. His career professionally was spent here at the University of Limpopo for 1975 to 1995, almost over 21 years. First as a teacher, and as a librarian, and as a deputy university librarian, and as a librarian head of the department. First, as a student, as a lecturer, he was inspirational. His teaching approach was motivational, enthusiastically encouraging students to study very hard so that you can be knowledgeable and well-informed in the profession. His classes were such that they were a healthy class environment conducive to effective learning. He positively encouraged participative engagement of students in his class. He was extremely well-informed and knowledgeable in the profession, both nationally and globally. And as a manager, I really must say I enjoyed working under his authority. He is one of those people who was always acknowledging the potential in other people. He was treating people as they were and as they were supposed to be, but not as they are, encouraging them to do better. He believed in collective wisdom of his team. He did not use his positive power of authority as a manager to push people around and to shout instructions from the top. No, he was rather supportive, and he had the following inherent qualities to which I observed for many years. Number one, an active listener, listening actively and learning in the process. He was always giving words of encouragement, even during difficult times. He was always keeping sharp observance of, sharp awareness of the dynamics of change and adjusting to the situation. He was actually doing things with his other colleagues to direct things in the positive, right direction. He was empowering and enthusiastic. This was good for his working colleagues. All these were his qualities of leadership: unselfish, and encouraging others to grow all the time, and encouraging his colleagues in the work environment to be members of professional associations, because he kept on reminding us that the information profession is the first profession in the world. These qualities was very creating a healthy working environment. He had a sense of contagious enthusiasm, integrity, humility, and the humanistic approach in the working environment, and with practical wisdom. He valued team diversity at work and with colleagues in the LIS profession, both as heads of university libraries and as heads of Department of Library and Information Science. At the university, he was a productive member of the university, especially in the library committee. He helped to put the library in the agenda of the university authorities. And as a result, his positive influence ensured that there was an increase in budget of the university and also an extension of the facilities. And as a Senate member, he was elected to represent Senate in the Executive of Senate as well as the Executive of Council. And in 1983, he was appointed as Dean of Students to link the students' leadership together with the university authority. And then he did this very effectively to improve the lives of students on campus. He used his power of positive leadership in order for positive growth and development. In brief and in summary, as we're celebrating in this memorial service, let's ask ourselves what it is that we can learn from the lives and times of Professor Manaka, and what we can take home to our respective organizations. I think we can take home the power of positive leadership, which he exhibited throughout his careers. Colleagues, I have observed all this within a period of almost 30 years. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tsebe, for the tribute. And thank you so much for celebrating the life of Professor Seth Manaka. It is indeed a pleasure to hear some of the other values that we did not know. There is one that I would like to share with all of us. You know, Prof taught so many generations. I think I was in the 3rd generation of his students, but then he was like a father to us. I remember this, I was reminded by yesterday that those who celebrate it, who are celebrating, what's that, yesterday, and they know that we are having Valentine. Prof would say to us, we were a class of 6 when we started, and Prof would say, my children, you must not be fooled by people. And they say, you are my Valentine. They buy a big bunch of red roses. They put under the steps at VG. VG was one of the residents, ladies' residents. He will go there, get 1 rose and come to you and give you, you don't sleep, I'm the Valentine. And go there and take another rose to the other hostel and give the other one, you are my Valentine. And the 3rd one, up till the 10 roses are done. You must not be fooled. And we would laugh. You know, that's how much he would try to tell us, be vigilant, make decisions, don't just run. Know life extensively. Thank you so much. I'm going to call Dr. Khomotso Maphopha from the Committee of Higher Education Libraries in South Africa, CHELSA. Dr. Maphopha, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good afternoon to all in attendance. It is a sad and humbling moment to convey words of comfort to Prof Manaka's family, friends, and the entire LIS profession on behalf of CHELSA. To bring everybody on board, CHELSA is the Committee of Higher Education Libraries in South Africa, an organization representing the interests of libraries in the public higher education sector. And the organization also serves as a community of practice for academic and research library directors. I'm also humbled to convey condolences as one of Prof's former students. I don't know whether I was the 4th and the 5th after Segametsi, the chairperson, from the early 80s. The fact that I speak today on behalf of CHELSA means that Prof remained an inspirational leader over many decades. I will continue to point out briefly 3 important points without repeating what was already mentioned. Prof Manaka was one of the pioneers and respected leaders in the academic library sphere in South Africa. According to the information that I gathered, Prof Manaka served in the position of Deputy University Librarian and later University Librarian at the University of the North, now University of Limpopo, between 1972 and 1981. Being the first Black university librarian or director in South Africa, hoping that my facts are correct. This was a milestone in the transformation of academic library leadership in the country, of which we remain pleased as CHELSA. His outstanding leadership traits were later transferred to the library school that he founded. And the fruits of Prof's labor from the school that he played a vital role in his establishment is the many leaders produced under his instruction and mentorship. As CHELSA, we remain grateful for Prof's contribution to library leadership, mainly in the academic sphere. In conclusion, CHELSA notes and appreciates the contribution made by Prof to new knowledge that helped to shape the future of the library and information profession and services. One of Prof Manaka's contribution was in the form of an inspirational inaugural address given in 1982 at the then University of the North. And the address alludes to the importance of a mindset that focuses on the broad mission of a library, namely transmission of information to users for the benefit of humanity. The address also shares his visionary leadership focus and motivates commitment to ensure good user experience by information workers in all sectors, including the academic and research center sphere, where CHELSA plays a role. Prof Manaka will be dearly missed by all of us, and we thank you for the opportunity as CHELSA to pay our tribute. Thank you, Chair, Manaka's family, and all in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maphopha. Professor Seth Manaka, a leader of note, who indeed made it his business to touch each and everybody positively and impact them in the right way. I'm going to call Ms. Mokgadi Senyolo to read the presentation here, or the tribute that was put together by Mayor Rachel Murray, the chair of SALI Trust. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, she is unable to join us now. Over to you, Ms. Senyolo.
Thank you, Ms. Molawa. Can you hear me? Ms. Molawa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to read through the tribute to Professor Seth Manaka from the SALI Trust Chairperson, Mayor Rachel Murray. It reads thus: the South African Library Information Trust, SALI Trust, is deeply saddened by the passing of Professor Seth Manaka. Although this is a sad occasion, we appreciate the opportunity to reflect and celebrate a life well lived in the service to the LIS profession and the wider community. The LIS profession was fortunate to have had such a great leader, academic, and extraordinary professor who played a critical role in the development and transformation of library and information profession in South Africa. Professor Manaka will always be remembered as the first Black library professional to obtain a master's degree in library science at UNISA. He will also be remembered for important role he played at University of the North, later Limpopo, where he started as a young assistant librarian in 1960 and moved through the ranks to become the head of University Library in 1974, and then professor and head of the Department of Library and Information Science from 1982 until his retirement in 1996. He initiated the higher diploma, bachelor's and honors degrees in library science at the university, thus contributing immensely to the training of LIS professionals in the country. Throughout his professional life, Prof. Manaka was involved in the wider library profession, and his contribution over a lifetime was immense. He was a founder member of the African Library Association of South Africa, LIASA, in 1962, and later became its president. He led LIASA with great passion and dedication, instilling professional values and pride in the LIS profession during the times when library services and the LIS sector was divided along racial lines. Professor Manaka became a beacon of hope and unity, always striving to bring the then divided LIS profession together. He became the president of the SA Institute for Librarianship and Information Science, SALIS, and worked with others to unify the various library associations in the country at the time, leading to the establishment of one non-racial LIASA in 1997. Professor Manaka's dedication to the profession did not end with his retirement. He played an important advisory role, including chairing the Interministerial Group on Library and Information Services in 1996. He was the first chairperson for the National Library of South Africa in 1999, as well as the first chairperson of the National Council for Library and Information Services in 2003. One could regard him in that period as an elder statesman for libraries. The honors bestowed on Professor Manaka within the LIS profession include the SALIS Award for Meritorious Service in 1981, LIASA Honorary Membership in 2007, and the SALI Trust LIASA Lifetime Achievement Award in 2017 for his extraordinary leadership, commitment, service, and achievements in the library and information field in South Africa. A Festschrift in tribute to Prof. Manaka was published by the National Library in 2015. Has an appropriate subtitle, in quote, "A Visionary South African Librarian," close quote. He was a teacher, thinker, leader, and unifier, a humble and gracious man who did so much for the institutions, communities, and profession he served with distinction. To Prof. Manaka family, accept our sincere condolences during this difficult time. Grief will not erase the memories you shared. He will be with you always, living in your hearts. To the LIS profession, death will never rob us of the important way Prof. Manaka touched our professional lives. Indeed, the great LIS tree has fallen. The seeds he planted in the LIS profession will continue to grow and flourish for many generations to come. His memory, now our treasure. May his soul rest in peace. From Mrs. Rachel More, Chairperson, SALI Trust. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you, Ms. Senyolo. What a life well lived. You know, when you listen to the leadership role that Prof Seth Manaka played and how he sacrificed his all to build or to contribute to the library and information science profession, you just say, wow. I remember he used to be like a marketer. He will tell us how important, and that when you do library science, you really will develop a community. He was instilling that love and passion in library and information science. And he's the one who made it a cool profession. You know, most of the people who were coming to library science were like a second option. Others did not know there's a profession called library and information science. Others came by default, and he will continue to market and tell the good and how important you will be touching people's lives and making a difference when you are a librarian. Oh, there's so much noise around here. So we are going to continue. We are having a hymn that says, "Ki se ki utlwile." Anna Marie will indicate when she's ready that she can play this song. As we read the comforting messages here, we can listen to this song. Thank you so much, Anna Marie, for the hymn, What a Life Well Lived. Can we keep all those messages, condolences coming through in the chat? They are so comforting. I'm self-comforted through reading all this. I hope the family will appreciate to see and hear what we are all saying about our Professor Manaka. The next tribute is by Professor Solomon Bopape, the University of Limpopo Department of Communication, Media and Information Studies. Over to you, Prof. Bopape.
Thank you very much. Segametsi. My apology first. I'm not visible here. My laptop camera is not functioning. But I would like to thank this opportunity given to the Department of Communication, Media and Information Studies to come and say a word of condolence for this wonderful professor, advisor, great educator, visionary, and implementer. He is an advisor because the most memorable advice that he personally gave to me was in 1982 when I passed my matric with SF. It was pass-fail, but there was a program here at the University of Limpopo. It was called Lower Diploma in Library Information Science. So I wanted to come and do that so that I should just go out of the high school. But the most memorable advice that he gave me, he said, young man, you are still 18 years, just go and repeat your matric, get good results and get an exemption and then come and do BB. Look where I am today. I'm very thankful to that. And he's a visionary because he introduced this BB degree after he has seen the need for access to information for people, most especially in rural areas. So by producing librarian in a university like the University of Limpopo, we will be able to facilitate this access to information. And above BB degree, he also introduced BB Ed. I'm not sure whether some of you might have done it. It was BB Ed, where he was trying to train teacher librarians because of the need for school librarians in schools. Unfortunately, today our government doesn't do anything about school libraries in the Department of Education. And if that program could have been taken seriously, I think we could be having the students who are readers. And then he also introduced this higher diploma in library and information science as he was seeing the need for subject librarianship. That was the time when most of the universities needed subject librarians or subject specialists to come and be able to provide information to different subjects, lecturers or academics. So he introduced higher diploma in library and information science, which is now postgraduate diploma in information studies. We still have it. Therefore, the real decisions are measured by the fact that one has taken action to implement them. And we are very thankful for Prof Manaka. He's a good educator because he taught us practically. Most of the things that we were doing them practically. He has a way of teaching us by moving from the unknown, by moving from the known to the unknown. For instance, when he was teaching us cataloging and classification, with classification, he will first ask us a question: how are your utensils in your kitchen arranged? We will tell them that we put the knives together, the teaspoons together, the tablespoons together. Then it says, no, this is what classification is. And when he was teaching us bibliographic control, he will first ask us, why do you have ID numbers? Or why do you have student numbers? And then from there, we will find that we are going to understand what he is trying to teach us. I remember when he was teaching us library management on strategic planning, he will always give us an example of the style that was used by Mamelodi Sundowns, which was called shoe shine and piano. That was applied by Skrima Chabalala. And he will say that that was a strategy so that Sundowns should always win games because they possess the ball to an extent that you become confused. And then when you are confused, then they score. This is a strategy. So that's why this is what he will tell us before he teaches us strategic planning. I remember in 1991, he went to Russia. And during the time when he was there was an attempted coup. Through this, he made us to be more interested in things that are happening around the world. Every time when he gets in class, he will always say, do you know the Russians? The Russians, that and that. So he'll tell us about the Russians and other cultures, and then we become more interested in reading world news. And this is what Prof Manaka taught us. He also made us aware of technology, that it was going to be integrated in library and information work. Before the technology was even there, he told us that most of the technology will be integrated in library and information work. And the colleagues who used to work with him in the library before, they always told me that he will come to them and say, computer, please go and learn the skills of using computers because it's going to take up your works or your jobs. So this is what he will always tell them. And I remember we heard about the CD-ROM for the first time from him and the word software. And there was this funny joke. One of the students asked him, what is a software, Prof? And then he said, a software is something very, very soft, my child. And this is a joke that we cannot ever forget in our program of information studies. And above all, he was the man of God. For everything that he was doing, he was putting God first. Because if my memory serves me well, he was once a president of the South African Council of Churches. Therefore, as the Department of Communication, Media and Information Studies in particular, we will remember Prof Manaka for the legacy that he has left. This year, we were arranging to have a public lecture in his honor during the library week. Unfortunately, suddenly we hear about his passing away. But as the program of information studies, we will try to pursue that memorial lecture that we'll want to have it annually in the program, organized by the program, but we will be communicating with the stakeholders about arranging that memorial lecture and the family. And finally, we would like to thank God, the Almighty, for having given us an opportunity to know Prof Seth Manaka. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Bopape. I think somebody has the mic open. I'm getting echo. Okay, thank you so much. As you share with us how Prof mentored, I was just asking myself, in this legacy, are we also mentoring others on and on to a point that we impact their lives positively? That when you get a poor pass or a total fail, you repeat and you don't try to take short corners. But today, what are we seeing? We are seeing the young people who commit suicide because they cannot take failure. Are we in the space of impacting them positively, encouraging them, mentoring them to show them this is not the end of the world? So we had people like Prof Manaka who would tell you the honest truth that you must go back and repeat if you want to get this thing right. As we continue with our program, I will call the National Library of South Africa Chairperson of the board, and that is Ms. Refiloe Mabaso. Over to you, Mayor Mabaso.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you to the organizers of this noble and important event, to all of us, as it is a moment for all of us to reflect, to look back on the journey that we've enjoyed with our one and only Prof Manaka. Firstly, let me start by greeting the family, the Manaka family, extended family members, friends, and neighbors. Greetings to all the LIS colleagues. As the National Library of South Africa, we are saddened and obviously sad by the passing of our beloved Professor Manaka, whom we will remember as a legend, a pioneer, a mentor, a role model to most of us in the LIS sector and in the discipline. We have, as the National Library, we had an opportunity of enjoying his wisdom, of being guided by him, of being led by him when he was the chairperson of the National Library of South Africa. Prof Seth Manaka was the first chairperson, and he led the library from 1999 to 2003. He was the very first one, and you can imagine during those days, him having to lead this noble organization that we as librarians we look up to, that we as librarians we respect and will forever cherish. He had the opportunity of taking that leadership role. During his time, he enjoyed, and he was amongst those who successfully led the merger of two libraries, which was the merger of the South African Library in Cape Town and the State Library in Pretoria. He witnessed the fruits of his labor as a guest at the official opening of the National Library of South Africa Pretoria campus in 2008 by the former President Thabo Mbeki. You can imagine where he was sitting, how he enjoyed and how he marveled of the work that he has done, and not for himself, but for us as the LIS sector. In 2015, the National Library of South Africa invited Prof Manaka, former information students, that is information studies students, to contribute to his Festschrift, which is a collection of his published writings. And Prof Manaka was honored to his contribution to the LIS sector at both national and international level. He contributed immensely that he is still being referred, there are some references and referred to the work that he has done. His work is a vision of change to all of us, and it will forever live in our lives. During the process of developing this manuscript, Prof Manaka's son, Muraro, was highly involved in the planning, sharing of family photos and memories towards his tribute, which we will forever hold on to. Beyond his life, we will still have something to hold on, which will make us to remember him, not to forget about his leadership and the work that he has done for us as librarians and beyond our careers. Prof Manaka's legacy lives on the National Library of South Africa. For those who have not visited our noble institution, be it in Pretoria or in Cape Town, please do, because you'll still find his picture hanging in the walls of both institutions. These pictures will forever be there. They will go down the history books of this country and even internationally. So please make time, walk through those walls and see the smile on the face of Professor Manaka. And the smile, if you read through that smile, you can see vision, you can feel the passion that he had for this profession. And some of the students that he taught, they followed on his footsteps. And we know of a late Professor Rocky, who was also the National Librarian, was taught by him. We also know of Dr. Tsebe, was also taught by him. He was also the CEO and National Librarian. Even the current National Librarian CEO, Mr. Kepi Madume, went through the hands of Prof. Manaka. I also count myself as one of those. I was taught by him, and today I stand proudly to call myself a product of Professor Manaka. And as I lead this institution, the National Library of South Africa, I lead it with pride because I went through the hands of a man who will forever live in our minds, in our thoughts, and in our leadership. He has instilled leadership attributes to all of us that we will forever and forever cherish. I am sure that every student who had the privilege of being under Prof. Manaka's teachings will agree with me that they stood on the shoulders of a giant in the least sector. He will forever live in our history books, our thoughts, our memories. Let us remember him as a giant. Let us remember him as a visionary, and let us forever remember him of all the things he has taught us, a giant not to be forgotten. To the family, a hearty and warm condolences from the National Library of South Africa. May we all be comforted as the sector and family and friends. Thank you very much, Program Director, for the opportunity. And it is an honor for us as the National Library to be given this opportunity because we remain in remembering him and will forever cherish him in our lives as an institution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Mabaso, on behalf of the National Library Board. What a life well lived, and what an immense contribution to the library and information services sector and to the nation at large. That is Professor Seth Manaka. Without any waste of time, I'm going to call Professor Muxe Nkondo. Professor Muxe Nkondo was the chief editor of the Festschrift and the first library and information science student for Professor Manaka at the University of Limpopo, the then University of the North. Over to you, Professor Nkondo. May the host advise me if Professor Nkondo is in our midst?
Segametsi, we don't see him on the list.
Okay, thank you so much. It's the next tribute by the LIASA President. Ready? Mr. Nazeem Hardy, the LIASA President, is bringing the next tribute. Is he in our midst?
Good afternoon, colleagues, once more. Unfortunately, our President, Mr. Nazeem Hardy, is not available due to unforeseen circumstances. I, however, on behalf of the association, would like to bring these words from the colleagues. There is a saying that, show me your friends, I will tell you who you are. As I've listened to the speakers that have spoken since the service has started, I can without doubt tell you who Prof Seth Manaka was. It's a very good, we have learned one of the most important things from this giant. As an association, as I'm sitting here, as I was listening to this great man, one thing kept on coming into my mind, that Charlie, you have missed out to have not been a student to this great pioneer. One of the important things that we should consider, although as an association, we have given Prof Manaka the flowers while he was still alive. And I was listening, I was thinking, why have we not, as a profession, have asked the government to honor Prof Manaka with the National Orders of Ikhamanga, to recognize his contribution in the arts sector, to recognize his contribution in the education sector, and recognize the role that he has played to produce so many leaders of our countries. Maybe this is a call to University of Limpopo and LIASA, the National Library, that, and even CHELSA, that we should consider jointly writing to the President requesting that he honor Professor Manaka with a national order, because of the contribution that he has made to the profession and to the country. As an association, we like to say to the family, thank you. Thank you, thank you for giving us this giant, for allowing Prof Manaka to share his expertise and knowledge with the profession. We like to say, may you find comfort that he lived his life in a manner that enriches the rest of the profession and others. I mean, if you look at the quality of the products that he has produced in the University of the North, the only thing that we can just do is to say thank you to the Almighty God, thank you to the family. As LIASA, we say to the profession, colleagues, may you find comfort that Professor Manaka has already made his contribution. What is left for us, as I mentioned when I opened, that we must take the cloth. We must take whatever is left for us, because he has given us, he must live in us. We must show his leadership. And and this is happening at a time when we as an association were also going through an important part on our life where we are restructuring. Can we then learn of those values that he enshrined, the one that he showed during the negotiation phase that led to the merger or to the formation of LIASA and the measuring of the two racially divided association, which was SALI and LIASA? Let us go forward and make sure that his vision is not lost. With these few words, I would like to say, may you find comfort that Prof Manaka is in a better place. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Molepo, our LIASA President-elect, for those words of comfort to all of us. I can add to what you're saying to say, Professor Manaka instilled the love of the profession and our association while we were still students. So this is really challenging our lecturers and our departments of library and information science, that it starts there, because we love the profession so much and we associated with the association before we could start working. And as we continued, as he was traveling, he said, librarians travel the world. They are forever learning and sharing information and knowledge. So every time he traveled, like what Professor Soli was saying earlier, he would tell us in details about the country he has visited. But students will always be students. We used to call him airport librarian. He did not know about that one. But as I'm saying, our profession needs to grow bigger and bigger. Our association needs to grow. This was his legacy. He wanted to see us and to see all the people in the profession participating and being very committed. Thank you so much. I'm going to jump Professor Nkondo and move towards the end if I don't get any indication that he has joined this meeting. I'm going to call Ms. Mokgadi Senyolo to do a vote of thanks. And before Ms. Senyolo do a vote of thanks, let me thank the audience for being here. Let me thank Professor Manaka's family for allowing us to have this. And let me thank LIASA for arranging this memorial service for us. All the messages that have been shared with all of us and the family are highly appreciated. I think this will be the last of me communicating with you after I've handed over to Ms. Senyolo. Thank you so much for being a good audience. Over to you, Ms. Senyolo. As she is still struggling to connect, Ms. Senyolo is the National Secretary. Are you there? Thank you so much. Over to you.
Yes, can you hear me, Ms. Molawa?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
I'm not sure if
we can hear you, Rebecca. You can go ahead.
Mr. Molepo. Colleagues?
We can hear you. You can go ahead.
I was saying there is a slot for family, Mr. Colette Manaka, to go ahead before I can do the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much. Over to Mr. Manaka.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Firstly, our family, entire family, immediate and extended, would like to convey our gratitude to his family, because library was Papa's family. We have throughout our lives shared you as our brothers and sisters, and we know a lot of stories around you. His students were his children. We thank you for honoring him and for keeping the lights burning as he has always sought of you. Each one of you who has spent time with him, even after his retirement, would know that over and above sharing all the times that he has had with each and every one of you, he would tell you what still needs to be done. He continued to follow what is happening and updated himself on current affairs. I can assure you his love for books remained up to his last day. He continued to read and he continued to promote the access to information for all. He has forever been proud of his students and the profession at large. And the Festschrift, which was launched in 2015, brought a lot of joy to him and to the family. We recognize your acknowledgement of all the efforts that Papa has made. He was a practical and humble man. He never looked at doing anything for himself, but for others. To the University of Limpopo, we can assure you that after you told us of the news of the memorial lecture, we shared it with him. And you could see the joy in his face as he appreciates what you all are doing for him. He, as a lot of his friends whom we met as we were growing up, has always seen himself as a forever librarian. Even in his teachings, whether in education, he said, in all what he has been doing, he remains a librarian. That was his first love. We will have a funeral service for Papa tomorrow at 8 o'clock in Polokwane. On Friday, on Friday the 17th, I'm already a bit advanced. On Friday the 17th at 8 o'clock at the Mount Horeb Presbyterian Church in Grobler Street in Polokwane. That's where we will be bidding him farewell. I appreciate, and so does the family, the fact that he lives in all of us. Thank you for honoring his memory, and thank you for acknowledging all he has done. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Nompanela Manaka. We receive everything we receive as a sector. We shared Professor Manaka with you. We were also a family in your family. Thank you so much. The Secretary, National Secretary LIASA, Ms. Rebecca Senyolo, Mokgadi.
Thank you, Madam Program Director. Let me start by greeting the Manaka family, the LIASA Executive Committee, the Representative Council, distinguished guests of this event, distinguished LIASA members, the National Library of South Africa Chair of the Board, Ms. Mabaso, and the entire team under the CEO, Mr. Madumo, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. The Program Director, let me start with you. And before I do my vote of thanks, I'm also one of Prof's, a student. And I'm not sure which generation is it as compared to yours, but I know I'm coming from after you, Madam Molawa. Prof used to just come in the class, and it is a good way when I express it in Sotho as to how he was saying it. And he will just say, Lena, it's like, just like you are so many to an extent that you have just been offloaded from the bus. But he continues saying, I'm only seeing moving forward to second year, I'm only going to have 30 of you here. That statement stirred our lives, and we worked very hard and we fought to be part of the 30 in the second year. So he was full of his teachings. He was not a regular teacher. He uses parables. He will get in the class, in my class, and he will sit on the chair and he will start, telling us that is from Alexandria, and he saw the papyrus, and he talks about the Egyptian scrolls, or the clay tables. And before we know it, he just he stand up and say, please open page so and so and go read there. That's the type of a teacher he was. He was very practical. He was teaching with symbols. And if you missed that out and you didn't understand that, you are just out. Some of the speakers alluded to some of the things that he also shared with us in my class. Like we started being about 123 or so. But when we completed, we were only 11. In addition to those who were doing higher diploma, we were 23. So you could imagine his statement at the beginning when he said, you are so many. And you will continue saying, it depends. If you are in the queue and there's an accident that happens, the person who's next to the happenings will relate the accident very well. But as it goes on to the next person, the rest of the people on the queue, the information will be distorted. So that's the kind of caliber that we are talking about today. And my class of 1993, we had an opportunity to call him. We had a gathering in 2004, and then we called him, and he was part of us, and we shared our experiences and where we are since our graduation. So he was very pleased, and we were also very pleased to have him during that time. Nonetheless, Program Director, thank you so much for steering this event so very well. And we are glad that you are also one of Prof Manaka's students. Mr. Molepo, the President-elect, the LIASA President-elect, thank you for the word of God. In times like this, we are comforted by the word of God. Thanks for those spiritual words of comfort, and hoping that the family will find it be a blessing for having had such a wonderful, wonderful father, grandfather. Prof Peter Law, with your recording, and it was not easy because you were traveling. LIASA would like to also say thank you so much, sincerely. And thank you for your kind words of the tribute message that you shared with us, your journey with Prof Manaka. It was really an inspirational. The bridge builder that you referred him to, a good listener. We really appreciate to know that. Dr. John Tsebe, the first student of information studies of Professor Manaka, and also have a privilege to be the colleague of Professor Manaka. He also alluded to the good listening part. And we appreciate the fact that he liked his students to be knowledgeable and well-informed. Indeed, you can attest to that in so many of us. We really appreciate the wisdom, the collective wisdom that he was instilling in many people. the person that he was, the unselfish and encouraging people, even to join our profession. I've picked that up in particular because if we are in here and we are non-LIASA members, we owe that to Professor Manaka. Thank you, Dr. Tsebe. Dr. Maphopha, CHELSA representative, thank you for having shared with us the grateful contributions that the Prof has done. As you indicated that he will remain an inspirational leader in many generations, even beyond mine. Thank you so much for sharing his journey in the higher education LIS with us. Mayor Rachel More, the chairperson of the SALI Trust, your message that I had a privilege to read through. Thank you for extracting very well how Professor Manaka's contributions have built this profession immensely. We really appreciate. Professor, and we had, before Professor Bopape, we had a hymn now. Thank you, Anne-Marie, Ms. Muxe. It's the song or the hymn that was sung, which is one of Professor Manaka's favorites. And you have heard he was a man of God. So this is one of his favorite songs. Thank you for putting that together and let us listen to it. Professor Bopape from University of Limpopo, from the department side. We appreciate what you have shared with us, that Prof was an advisor, a great educator, a visionary, the list goes on and on. And the beauty part that I've also picked up is that what you have indicated, that Prof have introduced the courses in LIS, including the school libraries. And I'm not sure up to this moment, this could be a challenge to our government to see to it how the school librarians or the school librarianship is doing to date. The National Library of South Africa, Chair of the Board, Ms. Mabaso, thank you. And again, we've got a lot of Prof's students here. You shared with us that Prof, you had an opportunity to be guided and led by the first chairperson of the National Library of South Africa. Now you are in his boot some years later, from the student's point of view now to be in the chairpersonship of the National Library of South Africa Board, where you indicated and shared with us that in his leadership, he led the merger of the two national libraries campus, both in Pretoria and in Cape Town. He instilled that leadership in our lives, and this is the giant that he cannot be forgotten. Thank you so much. LIASA President, in absentia, and Mr. Molepo, the President-elect, has stepped in Mr. Hardy's. Of course, you did miss out, I must say, because I never thought you are not one of Prof Manaka's students. You did miss out a lot. And you indicated that as an association, LIASA, we have given Professor Manaka flowers, but we could not do much because that was not ensured that government recognized his contribution. And I think that could be a challenge to the association to ensure that Professor Manaka's contribution is recognized. Thank you to Ntate Manaka. Firstly, to the family, thank you so much for allowing us as the profession, as the association, to put together this program in honor of Professor Manaka and the entire LIS sector, which is his baby. The Professor Manaka's family, indeed, we were Prof's kids. Some of us are still calling each other like that up to date. Thank you for sharing your time with the entire LIS sector, and especially those of us who were privileged to be under his leadership, his guidance. He was really an inspirational. It was really, you know, all those words that I may not say them all. But over and above, thank you so much to all the participants that have joined us in this memorable event today. From the National Library of South Africa, University of Limpopo, LIASA, in partnership with all those, in particular, Shade Peterson, Annemarie Hussein, thank you. And the other team members, thank you for all the technical and the Zoom link that you shared with everyone to be able to join this memorable event in honor of Professor Manaka. We really appreciate, and should there be anything that it might have not gone well as we planned, as we envisaged, I'm sure we will all understand that we cannot do justice within these 2 hours with this very legend, this very giant, this very stalwart of our profession. We owe him that much to take his legacy forward, because he has done so much that we can never end when we talk. And I must say thank you to everyone, each one of you, for having taken your time to come and share with us and this memorable day. And please continue to share with us on the LIASA website. There's a click where you click and you can share with us. You can still send your condolences and some comfort words on that chat or on that platform. Thank you so much, Ms. Molawa, and thank you for everyone, and have a wonderful day in honor of Professor Manaka. Thank you.
Thank you, and goodbye to all.